One, two, three. All right, we're live. All right, so I'm gonna introduce you real quick. I got Jim. How do you say your last name? Spivey or
Spivey, yes.
Spivey?
Spivey,
I got
yeah.
Jim Spivey back on the podcast, and this man needs no introduction. He's literally one of the most amazing people that I've ever met. He's just such an expression of unconditional love most of the time. 100% of the time that I've seen him, but like I'm sure he messes up sometimes here and there in his regular life. But but yeah, you're someone who's been played such a big role in my life. Um, and I tell people the story about how June 5th, I made the decision to raise my vibration. Um, and the next day, I think pretty sure, yeah, you called me and then, you recommended movies to me, telling me about, what was Unbreakable Warrior. What was it? I'm sorry, Peaceful Warrior. What was the
Yeah.
movie?
Uh-huh.
Peaceful Warrior. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then, you're just like blowing my mind. And we continued our relationship, and I was in the Mozzie I am program, and that was a magical experience, and it helped me a lot and many things, in especially at the time with my relationship with my family and everything, which has blossomed into what I'm doing now. I'm helping my dad just open up and run this magnificent seafood and Japanese steakhouse restaurant, and it's just been such a magical experience. And Jim, like you have you have somehow played such a huge part in that co-creation as well, because of the conversations we have over the phone about allowing spirit, leadership, eldership, and all these things like were coming to me at a perfect time, and like it was exactly what I needed, and I was able to carry that into um, my experience at the restaurant, because I remember there was a few times where like just things were getting hectic and I was just feeling overwhelmed. Um, but then I always remember, just allow it, just surrender, just allow spirit, and everything always turned out like perfectly. And nowadays I get a kick out of it, like to the point where something looks like a problem and it happens, I'm just like, I'm laid back, like as a manager you want to be like, oh, I gotta go figure this out or whatever, because as the manager, it's like there's so many like things that you have to deal with. You feel like you need to fix these things, which you probably do need to fix, but I just allow things to fix itself. And it always does. And it's still blowing my mind, but it just also gives me such a rush every time. And I'm just able to have so much faith. And that's, that's your introduction, Jim. That's a long-winded introduction. So welcome back on, Jim.
I have just one sentence to say to you, Andy. Your
Yeah.
ebullience brings me joy.
Thank you.
Yes, it's really
What
true.
was that? What was that word, bro?
Ebullience, ebullience means full of cheerfulness and energy. And you have an ebullience about you that just makes me giggle. So it's just that.
Well, here's the thing. We contacted each other we called each other, like I said, the day after I made that decision to become more ebullient, whatever the word is, like that was the decision that day. Like I literally, the day after, yeah, I made a decision to literally, align myself, to raise my vibration, to align myself, and um yeah, and then there you were, the next day, it was really crazy. And that's crazy because I really feel like, we're part of the same soul family. And it's just like, hey, the day after I made this big decision, like I meet someone like you, like that all just comes together. It's just like, and it's just so crazy. And I feel like also a little bit off topic, but feel like just your life, just like at least part of it to me is like a great example of just like love, like everywhere. Just obviously your marriage, and but also your relationship with someone like me, like who's like super. I'm 20, right? And then like I'm just like I haven't even lived like twice your life, like or yeah, right? Or how do I say that? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like we have such a great relationship, and none of that even matters, And it's just like, yeah.
Yeah, I want to share something with you because
Mm-hmm.
you give me like a rich experience. Okay, so now as you know, I'm an Enneagram Type 2 personality, and as a Type 2 personality, I can sometimes, when I'm unconscious, go to flattering another. Okay, flattery is
Yeah.
something that a 2 has to wrestle with. So
Yeah.
I'm aware of my nature to flatter when I say what I want to say, because it doesn't feel like flattery to me. It feels like truth that's so deep, it brings tears to my eyes. You are an expression in the world that to me represents the hope for the future.
So speaking of hope for the future, do you feel like there's ever a lack of hope for the future? Like I just feel like what does that even mean? Like what are we hoping for in the future?
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I thank you. So I grew up in a very different, like very difficult family situation. I grew up with a lot of pain and suffering. I made up things about the world as a result of many of those experiences, about how I needed to be in order to first survive and then have any possibility of being happy. Okay. And the idea that I could simply choose it was a foreign concept. When I was your age, at 20 years old, that idea didn't even enter my radar, right? So I had a hope I didn't even understand. Okay, inside my heart, I had a hope that joy could be something you simply choose. Now, along my life, I bumped into experiences of people that taught me a lot about that. Viktor Frankl is one of them, okay? However, you personify it for me. It's joy, like I get joy simply being in your presence. I get joy watching you communicate yourself. I get joy in your being. And it makes me realize that it's always been available. It's always been available. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So it gives me this feeling of overwhelming hope for all of mankind, right? And you symbolize that for me. I'm not trying to overwhelm you with a huge compliment. I'm just trying to give you the most honest expression of my heart in the way I feel toward you and towards our time together, like what I get out of it. Because I know you're very generous in sharing what you get out of it. And I want to be equally generous in sharing what I get out of it. I get
Yeah.
joy. I get a feeling of unlimited possibility for everyone, no matter what they're in the middle of experiencing. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So thank you.
I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I do wonder, man, like because you benefit me so much, like it's just with so much wisdom. Like even just having a regular conversation, like I feel like our conversations where we're just talking with no intent, no real like intentions of, like anything other than holding space or whatever. Like it's like I'm we just talk. I swear we can't talk more than like 2 sentences without like coming up with some like without like some really wise thing showing up, right? But a part of me knows that our relationship is, what's the word, is symbiotic, or we both are benefiting just
Yeah,
about equally, right?
co-created. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
co-created. Yeah,
so if if you are getting as much of a benefit from, if you are getting as much of a benefit as I am from our relationship, then like that makes me happy because you know you, like I said, you've just been so incredible. Like, and it's like in such an efficient way because it's not like we talk every day. You know, we talk once in a while, and then you know, and then that's it. But then every time we talk, it's just like such a aligning experience. You know,
Mm,
so yeah, yeah. So
beautiful.
glad. Yeah.
I love you too.
I love you too, Jim. So, would you like to talk a little bit about your recent breakthroughs in your relationships?
Oh
Would you
wow,
like to share some of that?
that's a surprise. I didn't know that was coming.
I wanted to talk about, yeah.
Well, the minute you said it, like I didn't know you were going to invite that conversation, but the minute
I,
you said it,
I've been waiting for like that conversation.
the biggest breakthrough in human relationships for me has just occurred with my wife's parents, and it's so tender, like it's so new that when I talk about it, I go to a very really tender place, okay? Because I don't want to say anything out of my pride that makes me sound like or be like I have this figured out, like what's happening. But there are things that are occurring that your willingness to ask that very sensitive question, like I can't deny the truth in my response, that breakthrough is blowing my mind. Yeah, because I didn't see anything as possible. Yeah. Do you want me to describe like what
Yes.
existed? Because many wouldn't know this. So I just recently, last September, married for the third time. I married this incredible human being named Bumi, who is from Nigeria. She is a doctor, and she is 25 years younger than me. So in other words, there are things about our relationship that are challenging for some people to be with, including us. Like we have our own things that we have to bump into to be together as husband and wife. And her family, they did not really believe that our relationship and marriage was a good idea for their daughter. I'm trying to say this as respectfully and carefully as I can, but they refused to meet or even acknowledge my existence for about 4 years. That was really painful. It was painful for me. I imagine it was even more painful for Bumi, and I know for a fact that it was really painful for her parents. And none of us knew exactly what to do with it. Like it was more painful than our hearts knew what to do with. Like it was just, it hurt too much. And recently, thanks to, I think, God's grace and the courage of her mother asked if we could get together for dinner, the four of us. And I never saw that coming. I mean, Bumi and I were considering that we were going to spend the rest of our lives without having a connection to her family. And her family is very important to her. Her parents are very important to her. She loves them dearly. She respects them immensely. And she's always wanted to have a marriage and a family relationship that fit together, like beautifully, in a way that honored each other. And it looked like we might not have that. So we were constantly praying, constantly talking, crying, agonizing over how are we going to get through this life like this? Like this doesn't fit. This doesn't work. This is too painful. And then out of the blue, her mom invites us to dinner. And that happened just a few weeks ago. And it was a miracle because there was nothing that happened at that dinner that was that felt like negative energy, that felt like judgment, that felt like defensiveness, that felt like game playing, that felt like tolerance. What I felt was like, I really have a lot of faith in what God's up to in my life that I can't control or manage or even understand. It felt like God's doing. Like I felt like I was a participant in something that was happening beyond my understanding. And I'm so grateful. I'll be so grateful for the rest of my life for that one dinner. I think a whole lot more things are going to happen that are going to be even more mind-blowing. But I'm like so grateful. I'm like, I am in the aftermath of a breakthrough that I don't even know how to fully have, if you know what I'm saying. And I'm watching your face right now, and I can see in your face that you really hear me at like the deepest emotional level. You hear how precious this experience is for me, and it changes my thoughts about what's possible among human beings. It changes it. Yeah. So anyway, first, thanks for the courage of the question. And then thanks for your generous listening as I share something I don't even know how to describe properly. Yeah.
How has the last few weeks, the time around that event, what has, how has that inspired you? What has that taught you about love and spirit? What was that surprising thing, like that got you?
Well, the work I'm involved in at Mozzie Partners, just so you know this, Andy, I think I might have referenced it before, but leading up to this invitation, we've been involved in what we call the SEAL program with multiple clients, and SEAL stands for Space Holding, Essence, and Letting Go. And that program is a year-long program to help people, in effect, have their life plan be their day-to-day reality, okay? And to have the tools and support and discipline and practice, and to actually build a system in their life to keep, to stay awake, okay, to their own humanity and to transform moment to moment. Like that's the work, right? So I've been steeped in that work, and it's been getting more and more intense as more and more people enter the program. And I'm just as much a participant in it as I am a space holder for it. Like I get so much out of it. And it really helped me look at dismantling my own pride, first of all, my own shame. Because as an Enneagram type 2, shame is at the core of my being. It's the thing I don't want to talk about. And as a child that's gone through a painful upbringing in some forms of abuse, shame is something that's wired into your brain. And then your defense mechanism, your survival suit, is pride. So my natural tendency when I feel ashamed is to get prideful in my defense and protection of my shame. So when I felt these experiences with her parents of being ignored or discounted or rejected, whatever the case may be, my natural human response was first to feel deep shame. Okay, I'm not good enough. I'm worthless. I can't do it. I'm not good for their daughter. And then to feel pride, like to judge them in what they were doing. And what our work let me do is to let go of both my shame and my pride. And what happens, and you've heard this in the I Am program, is when I let go of my subconscious patterns, my truth shows up, like it emerges naturally. So when I let go of my wounded shame and let go of my prideful protection, humility is the virtue of a two, and humility shows up. And when humility is in the energy, it's approachable. You know what I'm saying? Like, so my energy became more humble. And I'm not saying like I understand this as a formula, like it created their behavior. I'm just saying I was ready for it. Like when they made the invitation, I was ready because I was in a humble place and had let go of being dominated by my shame or my pride. And in that space, it was glorious. I can't think of a better word. It was glorious to be at that table. I think I sent you a picture,
Yes,
right? And to be at that table as an equal participant in love. I can't even. Now, ever since it happened, if I get prideful about it, I will unravel it. So I'm trying day to day to wrestle with the part of me that wants to naturally slip back to shamefulness or pridefulness and stay in a place as much as I can. And you give me that wonderful opportunity, Andy. Like talking to you gives me an opportunity to practice my work as a human, okay? To practice my letting go of my subconscious habitual ways of being to allow my essence show up. And it's a joyful practice with you. And it serves me everywhere. And it served me in that situation, like to be there without needing to make a point, without needing to get their approval that I'm a good choice for their daughter, like without needing their approval. As a two, I'm addicted to people's approval. Like I, you know, in my personality, I need people to like me or approve of me. Okay, but I let go of needing their approval or even be liked. Okay, and then interestingly enough, and I don't understand this at all, what shows up when I let go of my need for that is I'm likable.
that's so true though. Like, yeah, I mean, because you're lighting up, you're showing up when you're not dragging yourself down with these
Yeah.
things. So you naturally
Or raising myself up with my ego. Yeah, right. And it's funny because I can tell it's so fun to be on these calls with you because I can watch your face and see how I'm doing at my work.
Really?
That's a beautiful thing. Like I can, if I was wounded, like if I was talking to you, like my unconscious woundedness, I would see one Andy face. If I was totally blowing smoke up your butt with all kinds of proud statements of my,
true, yeah.
I'd see another one, right? But when I'm giving you all of me, I get all of you, and it says, there I am. It's like, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, because like sometimes I'm like just very focused, just being very present, and I might not be smiling or anything, but I'm just like very focused, But that's, but so when did that shift occur? With the whole unraveling of, your just the shame and the pride, like, was that really recent?
Well, it's an ongoing practice in my life.
Yeah.
But then you'll get confronted by triggers, right? Like, so you could be doing your work and you could be having some good experiences and some breakdowns and so on. But then, like as you continue to practice, you'll bring in a trigger that's like a bigger one than you think you can handle, right? Yeah. And that's not a curse or a punishment. It's like you must be ready, like you've been working. You know what I mean? And weeks before the invitation, so that means like beginning of the year, Boomy and I, our work has shifted in our willingness to face ourselves in relationship with others. and our honesty and depth of work that we would do and that we were doing in Mozzie around the SEAL program. These were preparatory steps. Like, so the intensity and depth of that and my commitment to it has increased over the last few months. Yeah, even though I've been working on this kind of stuff for 20 years, okay, there's been an intensifying focus. You mentioned the word focus earlier. There's been an intensifying focus on, I am my only problem.
So quick injection. So you said beginning of this year, you and Boomy made the decision to face yourself in your relationship with others. That's so beautiful. That, like, because wow, like, can you just talk more about just the whole facing yourself, realizing, it is within you, like your relationship with others is still reflection of your relationship with yourself, would you say, or what would you say?
Now I'm going to just go with you because I trust your heart so much, and my brain doesn't have a carefully packaged answer. So I'm just going to let my heart talk.
Okay. All right.
I think at the core of my being is the whole world.
Yes.
At the core of my being is Andy. Yeah. Right? Everything removed from the core of my being is my way to try to figure out how to navigate relationships with others. My way to figure out how to be with you, Andy. Like, as I rise up away from the core of my being, all of the artifice and armor and masks, however you want to describe it, all the layers of personal history show up, and I become less and less present to the fact that you are me. Yeah. Okay, so we have committed ourselves, Boomy and I, in our marriage, to relating to each other from the core of our own being, where there we are. Like, when I look at her, there I am.
So this is just my reflection, is that at the core of my being, at the core of your being, I feel like, is love.
Yeah.
And so you're like recognizing the love in yourself, and then when you recognize the love in other, and then which reflects back to your essence of yourself, which is love, and then you know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It's a dance, and there's nothing wrong. Like, all of a sudden, I get to just relax and be at the dance. I can't, I don't even know how to say this in a way that communicates it fully, but all my life, from when I was a child, I've wanted to just be at the dance. I just wanted to be a human playing with humans, as one. Like, I had this, and it got tragically separated from me through pain of poverty, violence, tragedy, abuse, lots of things like separated me from that truth. And I developed a capable survival strategy that let me be a quarterback, it let me be an Eagle Scout, it let me be a CEO, it let me be an executive coach and a life coach. And most of the energy in those different realms of my life was personality and ego. Like, most of that achievement, and I should say most of the need for the achievement, came out of a part of me that's not my true self, but what I learned to be, to feel like I could survive. And to let that go feels like death. Like, you know what I mean? To let go of what the world applauds, because there's something under that's even better. There's something other that's even realer. It's a scary journey. It's becoming less and less scary. And over the last few months, Boomy and I have taken it to a new level in our partnership. And Mozzie has taken it to a new level with its SEAL participants, and I'm on the ride. Like I am on the ride, and I get glimpses in that of pure joy. This is one of them. I'm having one right now, and sitting at the table with Bumi and her parents was one of them. Yeah, and I get to have more and more of them. You know, watching Bumi take my daughter to shop for clothing. Okay, I mean something that years ago I wouldn't have even thought much about. You know what I mean? My ego would have just said, "Okay, cool, a thing to do." No, watching Bumi take my daughter to go clothes shopping, I was so joyful. Like I just sat there with tears in my eyes. So yeah, you sent a tweet out this morning that talked about like what a beautiful day it is to be alive or to exist, and I'm getting more and more experiences of that, and it has taken a lifetime to have them authentically. And when I watch you having them at 20, I am so happy for you. Like my brain just explodes. And I'm just like, I want to grow up to be like Andy.
Why do people keep saying that? It's so funny. Like, but you're dancing now, Jim.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do you feel like you would take anything back from
No.
the last 40 or
No.
however long or not? Right.
No.
Like,
No.
it's so mind-boggling to me because
Yeah.
I am 20 years old and I feel like I went through like 19 years of hell. Like,
Yeah. I hear you.
you know, and it's like, dang, Jim did that for like twice or, you know, as something like that, as long like as me, like, you know, just like, man, I just couldn't do it anymore. Like, I got so tired of existing. Like, I felt like I was if my body was a vehicle, I was in like a super hot car or something. Like, I just felt like I was in like a super hot, broken down car that was just you know, like driving through like a desert that's like 140 degrees. You know, I just always was suffering intensely. Like, just, and even when I was like doing better, I was still like suffering. Like, even just there was just always something that felt wrong. And but nowadays, you know, ever since June, which is like, I don't know, but it's like it was a while. I can't do the math right now, but it's like I've been feeling so aligned and feeling so amazing for the first time in my life, and it just like such a good feeling, and I am. Oh, I want to use the word proud, but now I don't want to because of the conversation we just had. I feel appreciative of the fact that I recognize that also that I feel like I'm well, adding to what you said, I can be an example. Like, I feel like because of just like, dang, I suffered so much and now I just, you know, like just so consistently aligned and just feeling love and feeling appreciation. And it really is really possible, you know? And but
Yeah,
I
you
don't
showed
know
me
where I'm going
something.
with that. Yeah.
You know, I know I've talked to you about my father's death, but my dad died at 72 years old from pulmonary fibrosis. And in the last, you know, once he accepted his death, like he accepted he was going to die, in the last 3 months of his life, while having accepted death, he became like you, like he became a joyful, exuberant, like thrilled to be alive. And he said to me once, and it spoke so deeply to my heart. He said, "Jim, I have no regrets for the 72 years of blindness." He says, "With what I'm experiencing now, I don't regret anything. It was all worth it for what I'm experiencing now." Now, this is a man that was on his way to dying. Like he had accepted that I'll be dead within a few months. And he was saying that, like, this awareness means it makes everything else where I was scared and didn't understand anything. It makes it all worth it. So he's the one that said to me that God had a message for me. And I asked him what that was, and he said, tell everybody you talk to, don't wait until you're diagnosed as terminal to know the truth. And I said, what's the truth, Dad? And he said, we have nothing to worry about. And I tattooed that on my arm, and you've seen that tattoo. Those words, I tattooed them on my arm because I am committed to surrendering whatever I have to surrender to live those words before I die. And he also made me realize you're going to meet people that understand what I'm saying. You're one, okay? Like you are an example of meeting people that understand what my dad said to me on his deathbed.
So I want to ask you, what does it mean to have nothing to worry about? To not worry.
Yeah. Now, if I start talking about this like I know what I'm talking about,
Okay.
I will be separated from the wisdom. Okay. When I'm in my highest truth, and right now it feels that way, right? When I'm in that place, I don't have any concerns or problems that need to be solved. My ego is not latched into something. You used the word detached earlier. I feel a non-attachment to results. Like nothing has to happen for me to experience the bliss of being alive. That's where my dad was on his deathbed. Like nothing had to happen. He didn't have to be told that he's miraculously saved from pulmonary fibrosis. He didn't need to be told that. Nothing had to happen to change his experience because he was experiencing the fullness and richness of life. That's what I mean, like we have nothing to worry about. I know in my, what we call our 2.0, that's the truth. Now, I don't always experience that truth. In fact, I can rarely experience that truth.
Yeah.
But when I get the ways in which I abandon that truth, I have a chance to actually experience that truth. So to come on with you, I prayed about you. I talked about you with Boomy. I got myself into the place where I could spot the parts of me that would want to see something happen, like would want to see my wound taken care of or protected, they want to see my ego stroked and told how good I am. I got to look at those things and let them go. And then I got to just experience Andy, like in your picture from the restaurant, in your tweets this morning. And I'm like, I just want to dance with Andy.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to do and nobody needs us to fix anything.
I love this whole dancing thing because like it's showing up, you know, the dance is really showing up for me in such a big way. And it's so crazy that you had that it's so crazy in the context that, you know, me and you are kind of so connected and our path seems so connected, especially of late. And
yeah,
the fact that you had that experience with Boomy's family, and you know, I feel like I get a sense that has contributed, that has enhanced your ability to surrender and appreciate life.
Yeah, hugely. Yeah, and I've watched you do it as a dance partner. Like when you would share with me, God, do I love working with my dad, right? And when you would share like some of the recent experiences you've been having where you see your family through a whole different lens, it's like we're equal brothers experiencing, you know, like reconciliation with the truth.
Right.
You know, that's what it feels like.
Right. And you know, it's like ours, the form of our situation is different. It's a little different, right? You're eating at a restaurant, I'm managing one. I'm just kidding. But but yeah, I mean it's a little bit I guess different, but still the whole the whole thing is still the same, you know, we're
do you remember the podcast? Do you remember the podcast we did with Jonathan like a year or so ago? Right?
That was not a year ago, but that was not a year ago, but
it was quite a while ago.
Was it that long?
No. It was before I was married. Yeah, it was a
What did you get
while.
married
Yeah,
again? I'm sorry. You got married in
September. So it might have been 6 months.
September?
Yeah, yeah.
No
So
way.
anyway,
Yeah.
do you remember the podcast?
I don't. I remember. Obviously, I remember, but I don't ever remember like anything that's ever because like I won't remember anything from this conversation from a mental perspective. Like
Okay.
unless I
So
re-listen. I'm so
yeah,
in the moment.
the reason I'm bringing that up is
Yeah.
that you were very moved by the fact that Jonathan had his mother in the IM program with you, and you were very moved at the fact that his father had done a life plan, right? And you couldn't fathom the possibility that you could have a relationship with your parents like Jonathan had with his. And
Oh,
look at it. Look at it.
oh,
Oh my God.
oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yo, that's so. First of all, it's been 6 months,
Yeah. Yeah.
and no, that's so crazy. And really, honestly,
Yeah.
I wanted to say like, there's really no ending as far it's not like, oh, there's a goal. I want like
Right. Yeah,
my
I'm with
father or to have this certain amount of capacity or whatever. It's like my relationship with you. There's never going to be perfection. It's always ever expanding, right? Like our
you.
relationship will always grow. You will always grow. I will always grow. And it's like there's no ending. So that means that the journey is the prize. The journey is the
Yeah.
part you enjoy. And it's just like, I don't care that, look, things are not perfect with him, like, or any of my family. It's like, there's, like I still have flaws, they still have flaws and whatever. But it's like this journey, all the events, all the momentum, all the changes, all the things and moments that has happened, that's what is delicious. That is what makes everything so worth it. It's not about, oh, like snap a finger, instantly manifest like a high vibrational father, like
Yeah.
or anything like that. It's like this journey is the prize, and I can't stress that enough. It's like, Jim, if you ever come down, like, and we eat at the restaurant, and let's say you love seafood, and you
I
want
do.
and
I would love.
let's say you want to take a day off from your amazing diet regimen, and like, and if we feast on the food, we don't want to eat the food in 1 second, right? We want to
That's
enjoy the
for sure.
food, right?
Yeah.
Every bite, right? That's what it is. Like,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter if you well, I mean, I don't think it matters if you finish the whole plate or whatever. There's no perfection. Like, you just eat as much as you're satisfied. That's not a perfect analogy, but I'm saying like the journey is what you savor the most. So it's like,
Yeah.
you enjoy the part where you're eating and just having that euphoric feeling when you're eating that super perfectly seasoned snow crab legs, and the the potatoes and eggs, and then the corn and that sauce is just literally so good, and then just the sausages,
You're making me hungry.
yeah. I gotta go to work soon, right? um
Can,
I'm gonna
can
wrap
I
this
say,
up and everything, but um yeah,
I have something I want to share, like, because
of course.
you and I, in terms of our closeness, back then, when you were saying to Jonathan, like, having that kind of relationship is impossible. And a little while ago, we were talking about Joe Dispenza because he lives in the field of infinite possibility,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you have moved from a place that you
Oh
deemed
my.
impossible to a place of possible. Now, here's what I didn't share with you, but I can now, okay? Is back then when you were talking about that, I was in the same place of impossibility as it related to Bumi's parents,
Right.
okay? So now I got this. Now, is it because they changed? No. Like, something happened inside me that opened up a possibility beyond what I could see before. Something's happened inside you beyond what you could see before, and we're now as brothers. basking in possibilities we didn't think were
Wow.
there. Yeah.
Jim, it's 11:11 right now, by the way. Check the time over here.
Touchdown!
Yes. And that's and that's so crazy you mentioned the whole Joe Dispenza, the whole field. Because if you look at like episode 6 or episode 5 or something in my podcast, which I don't recommend because I remember, yeah, it's just like anyways, it doesn't matter. But um my very early podcast episode, it's a great insight to just kind of what was my mindset back then, because I was going through, the rock bottom of my life, and I was teaching spiritual principles and stuff. And at the time I was just teaching kind of like what I was reading about. And
Mm-hmm.
Joe Dispenza was great, and Greg Braden was like everything at the time. Like I was only reading Joe Dispenza and Greg Braden, and um it's so crazy because the field of possibilities, like
Yeah.
whatever, the quantum field, that was so mind blowing to me. And just kind of, and just to kind of have that, because I remember, like, I got arrested and I caught a felony, and then um none of that scared me at all, like for myself, like as far as, like, I went to I got locked up for the holding period or whatever. And that I didn't care about the consequences or anything, as far as, like, because I was so present. And, like,
Yeah.
so but the only thing that really ate at me was I gotta tell my dad and I gotta tell my mom. And my mom was in China, and so I had to tell my dad, so he bailed me out and everything. And my dad, um, it actually wasn't that bad. But then my dad was like, "Don't tell your mom until she gets back from China." And I'm like, "Dang, I want to tell my mom right away," but my dad was like, "She's let her enjoy her time." And so I was like, like a month later, my mom, I had to pick my mom up from the airport. And the flight was like delayed a little bit, so I was getting so nervous because I had to break the news to her, because I didn't want to let it sit and wait. So I was like, I have to tell her that I got arrested. In my mind, I'm like, there's no way that my mom, this is gonna turn out right. Like, there's no way. But then I was reading Joe Dispenza on my phone while I was at the gas station parking lot waiting to pick up my mom when she lands. So I'm like reading Joe Dispenza. He's talking about the field of possibilities, the quantum field, how um, I can't remember what it was, but when you were present, or when you were, I can't remember what it was, but when you stop, I can't remember I think it's just when you stop feeding the negative. I can't
Yeah.
remember, but I was reading
Uh,
the book, and like the whole quantum thing really stuck with me. And I just remember, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be open to all possibilities. And then when I told my mom, she didn't even yell at me. Like, she just was completely concerned. Like, and we actually had a really deep conversation
so
afterwards. And
beautiful.
yeah, and I really got to get going.
Yeah.
So
I have a
yeah,
favor to ask you, and this is a serious one. I realized today on your podcast that I talked a lot about Bhumi and her family. I want to know if you'd be willing to let Bhumi listen to this podcast before you release it to the public, to make sure
oh
she doesn't feel
yeah,
the least bit,
yeah,
she doesn't feel
yeah,
anything out of integrity with it. Would that be all right with you?
yeah, yeah. Of course.
That would mean the world to me in terms of respecting my wife.
Yeah. I got you. I know exactly how to do that.
Okay.
I just gotta just give me some time to
Yeah.
not upload it, but to process for my computer and stuff, to process it. Yeah, because we
Yes.
have next Friday. This is when I
Good.
release it, so we have a lot of time. So we'll figure something out. Okay.
Okay. I want to make
All right.
sure it respects her.
Of
And
course. No.
yeah.
Yeah. I thought the same thing. I thought the same exact thing when you were talking about it. I was like, I understand just how this can be very personal. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
stopping it right now. Okay. So one,
Okay.
two,
Very good.